What's going on, creator? So, right now we currently have the videos you made this morning uploading. One of them's uploaded so far. I haven't published it yet, but the upload is going. Hey, go take that out there. We're busy right now. My animals. They're always around me. I love pets and all, but sometimes it's just like, I need my space, yo. Even from your animals. Man, go figure. I mean, I'm not the only one like that, am I? So, let's go ahead and get started. Hold on. Hey, go. You too. Gracie. She's getting old. We've had her since I was in, I want to say, 7th, maybe 8th grade. She's currently the oldest animal we have. Her name's Gracie. She's a Shih Tzu Maltese. She's 12, 13, maybe even 14. Oh, I don't know if she's that old. She's probably like 12 years old now, maybe 13. You know, and she was playing with our cat right now, Bond, Mr. James Bond. We found out he was a boy. It took a while for us to figure out whether it was a boy or a girl. You know, with kittens, especially when they're small, it takes sort of a while to really determine and dictate what's going on down there. You know, and like I named him James Bond at first because I thought he was a boy. Then after a while, we were thinking he might have been a girl. You know, so we were going to change his name to Jane Bond, just in case it was. But then we ended up finding out it was a boy anyway, so James Bond still works out perfectly. So, let's go ahead and continue. We're on part 1, exploring the system of our lovely chakras. And here's an image that it says, "The Wheel of Salvation from the Temple of Konarak," and that is from India. So, exploring the system. And right here it starts with a poem. It says, "The Wheel of Life." And it says, "Time is, love is, death is, and the wheels turn. And the wheel turns, and we are all bound to the wheel. And the sage said, Lo, that which binds you to the wheel is of your own making. And the very wheel is of your own making. And the wheel turns, and the wheel turns, and we are all bound to the wheel. And the sage said, Know that we are all the one. Know that the wheel is of your own making. Know that the wheel is of your own making, and we are all bound to the wheel. And the sage said, Free yourself from the wheel. Know you are the one. Accept your own work. Free yourself from the wheel. Know that the wheel is of your own making, and we are all bound to the wheel. And the sage freed himself from the wheel, and became the one, the immortal God, freed from the wheel, freed from illusion, and knew then why the one had created the wheel. And the one became many, and the one became we, and we are all bound to the wheel. Time is, love is, death is, and the wheel turns, and the wheel turns, and we are all bound to the wheel." That is actually really cool. Now, let's go ahead and start with our chapter 1, and this section is called, "And the Wheel Turns." We are all a circle within a circle, with no beginning and never ending. From the great spiral galaxies, thousands of light years across, to the trillions of atoms swirling in a grain of sand, the universe is composed of spinning wheels of energy. Flowers, tree trunks, planets, and people, each is made of tiny wheels, turning inside, riding upon the great wheel of the earth, spinning in its orbit through space. Oh, wow. You must do the thing to have the power. I completely forgot. I had this in here. And here's another one. It says, If it's meant to be, it's up to me. And as our lovely sun sign right there. The orbits, okay, where were we? I'm sorry. When I seen that, I was just like, wow, like I remember doing that. It's been a while. Flowers, tree trunks, planets, and people. Each is made of tiny wheels turning inside, riding upon the great wheel of the earth, spinning in its orbit through space. A fundamental building block of nature. The wheel is a circle of life, flowing through all aspects of existence. Now, with that being said, okay, everything is made out of a spinning wheel. Okay, and we can only really determine, what the spinning wheel can be, because we learned that, from the vibrations of the planets, we're receiving all the energy from the planets in spiral form, in a rotating form, like a wheel. Okay, the flowers, the tree trunks, the planets, and people. Each is made of tiny wheels turning inside, riding upon the great wheel of the earth. These wheels of life, which is everything has been made out of, in a way we could connect it to, possibly the electrons, what we've learned through everything with the master key system in you, the basic substance and properties of the planet, and how the electron is the point distribution of intelligence. And everything's made out of these electrons. When these electrons come together, they form the atoms. Like she was saying, the trillions of atoms swirling in a grain of sand. And those atoms then come together, because an atom by itself is an invisible, definite amount of energy. Okay, but when these atoms start to come together, they make molecules, which would be like a grain of sand, because sand is a type of molecule. Remember how we learned that once atoms become a molecule, that's when it becomes identified as something. The molecule is the most basic properties that has its own identity. Like hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen. These are all molecules made up of atoms and electrons, being the energy, but it's simply the differentiation of the atoms that makes up that molecule, which makes hydrogen different than nitrogen. At the inner core of each one of us spin 7 wheel-like energy centers called chakras, swirling intersections of vital life forces. Each chakra reflects an aspect of consciousness essential to our lives. Together, the 7 chakras form a profound formula for wholeness that integrates mind, body, and spirit. As a complete system, the chakras provide a powerful tool for both personal and planetary growth. Chakras are organization centers for the reception, assimilation, and transmission of life energies. Like we were saying earlier, they receive vibrations, they receive energy in both spiral form, and give off energy in both spiral form. Like they say, chakras are organizing centers for the reception, for receiving energy, assimilation for determining what that energy is, and transmission for releasing that energy back of life's energies. Our chakras are core centers that form the coordinating network of our complicated mind-body system. From the instinctual behavior of consciously planned strategies, from emotions to artistic creations, the chakras are the master programs that governs our life, loves, learnings, and illuminations. As 7 vibratory modalities, the chakras form a mythical rainbow bridge, a connecting channel linking heaven and earth, mind and body, spirit and matter, past and future. As we spin through the tumultuous times of our present era, the chakras act as gears turning the spiral of evolution, drawing us ever onward towards the still untapped frontiers of consciousness and its infinite potentials. And here's a figure on the next page. It says, this is an example of the chakra forms found repeatedly in nature. Okay, and one thing too I also want to talk about is pretty soon we're going to be going over what's known as the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden ratio, and that's known as nature's design. But right here, okay, figure 1.1, okay, this is an example of chakra forms found repeatedly in nature. And here's a few designs that can be seen throughout all of nature. And it says the top left is a species of rhizostoma, rhizostomia. Rhizostomia. So that's what this is. Okay, the bottom left is a gorgon-headed starfish, which is right here. Okay, next we have the top right, which is a lichen, or a lick. No, I don't think that's lichen. Lichen, L-I-C-H-E-N. Then it says the bottom right is a sea urchin. Okay, those are the energies, like the spinning chakras found within those specific things, like the gorgon-headed starfish. You know, this is the chakra energy found within, you know, them, the vibrations. Okay, remember, even learn mind is a system of vibrations, and the body itself is nothing but a manifestation of that vibration. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And when you think about it, simply the fact that, you know, the physical appearance of what we are, you know, is also because of our chakra systems, our vibratory mind, body, you know, our subtle body. The body is a vehicle of consciousness. Chakras are the wheels of life that carry this vehicle about, through its trials, tribulations, and transformations. To run our vehicle smoothly, we need an owner's manual as well as a map that tells us how to navigate the territory our vehicle can explore. Consciousness. Okay, I did read that one. Sorry, I looked back up really quick to see if I didn't skip anything. This book is a map for the journey to consciousness. You can think of it as a, quote, user's guide, end quote, to the chakra system. This map, like any other, will not tell you where to go, but will help you navigate the journey you wish to take. Its focus is on integrating the 7 archetypal levels that impact our lives. So remember, this book is focused not as a practical a system, you know, like for us to not only have a great understanding of what we're learning about the chakra systems, but to have a practical understanding as well, you know, the most basic fundamental facts on the chakras. Because when we learn about it, okay, it's not going to help us, you know, it's not going to give us a map on where to go, but it's going to give us a map on how, you know, to grow internally as a consciousness, you know, that personal growth thing, you know, and from that we decide to you know, do whatever it is that we want to do with our life, you know, because like we were saying earlier, once we grow to that point internally to being, remember that you must be something before you can have something. You have to be that thing first, inner, you know, inside of you, before you can have it outside of you, because it is through you that it has to manifest in the material plane. It is through you in order for it to come into your life. With map in hand, we can embark on an exciting journey. Like all journeys, there is a certain amount of preparation needed in the form of background information. The psychological systems, the historical context of the chakra system, a deeper study of just what the chakras are and the related energy currents they describe. This gives us a language to speak on our journey, and we'll then be ready to take the journey itself, climbing up the spinal column, chakra by chakra. Remember, the spinal column, okay, our nervous system. Each chakra we encounter is a step on a continuum between matter and consciousness. Therefore, this journey will encompass areas of our lives ranging from the somatic level of physical and instinctual awareness through the interpersonal level of social interactions, and finally to the more abstract realms of transpersonal consciousness. When all of the chakras are understood, opened, and connected together, we have then bridged the gulf between matter and spirit, understanding that we ourselves are the rainbow bridge that connects earth and heaven once again. Now remember what that great Jesus the Messiah, the greatest teacher, has told us, that the kingdom of heaven is within us. Okay, it is found within. Okay, and we ourselves are the rainbow bridge that connects earth and heaven once again. In a fragmented world where mind is severed from body, culture from planet, and the material from the spiritual, We have a deep need for systems that allow us to reclaim our wholeness. These systems must allow us to integrate mind and body and take us to new and expanded realms without denying the mundane realities we all face on a daily basis. I believe the Chakras provides just such a system, one we cannot do without and one whose time has come. And here's figure 2. These are more examples of chakra forms found repeatedly in nature. Okay, and as we can see right here, it's so obvious. This one in particular is a flower, okay, a Fibonacci sequence. Okay, it's made of a certain design. As you can see, like, these petals are in between these petals, you know, and even with the sunflower, I strongly encourage you guys to actually look into it and what the Fibonacci sequence is. You kind of got more of a view of my room. It's a little bit messy right now. It takes me like 2 days to dirty my room. I know, huh? But yeah, the Fibonacci sequence is this wheel of life of which everything has within it. You know, it has a specific design. It's nature's design. You know, and everything in nature is created from this one specific design. It is the system, you know, the field, the matrix, you know, God's modus operandi, you can say, you know, how He works things. So, now we're moving into another section called Approaching the System. And this says, System 1 is a complete exhibition of essential principles or facts, arranged in a rational or organized whole, or a complex of ideas or principles forming a coherent whole. And that is from Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary. So, imagine if you went to the library and found nothing but piles of books stacked helter-skelter across the floor. To find anything, you would have to go through long and tedious hunting, with only a remote possibility of success. Ridiculously inefficient, you say. Accessing consciousness without a system can be just as tedious. The circuitry of the brain allows for infinite possibilities of thought, and the manifestations of consciousness are far greater in numbers than the books in any library. Given the rhythm and speed of today's life, we certainly cannot access this information without efficient systems to streamline the process. Now I want to go over this very important fact that she just said, that the circuitry of the brain allows for infinite possibilities of thought. You know, remember what we've been learning about thoughts. I mean, even this week, what we're learning about it, we have to think bigger thoughts. You know, when you think big thoughts, you move into a higher state of consciousness, a higher plane of thinking. You know, like he explains with all those successful people, okay, they focus on the things that they want. They move their thoughts into higher realms of thinking, because remember, we become what we think about, and we always want to expand, push your awareness, push your thoughts into higher planes of thinking, because when we do this, we'll not only attract those things into our life that'll help us to grow into greater planes of thinking, but we ourselves will manifest that and become that. You know, we'll become greater, we'll become grander, you know, because we're feeding our brain greater and more grandeur thoughts. Remember, the brain, what we've learned about the brain, that the brain is the most wonderful mechanism of attachment which has ever been created. You know, just as a circuit board with the batteries, you know, the batteries get all their energies from this circuit board. You know, likewise with your brain and your thinking. You know, your thoughts are expressed through your brain. Okay, your thoughts are expressed and made tangible through this tissue, this antenna that we have. Because remember, every thought we think sets brain cells into activity, you know, because thinking is a vibration, you know, and our body responds to vibrations. Mind itself is a system of vibration. And what are we learning about the 7 chakras? These wheels of life are vibrations, energy within the body. And when we're vibing those thoughts, our brain is literally changing its structure and grouping itself in accordance with the nature of whatever it is that we're thinking. That's how you build mental habits. When you're continuously thinking your thoughts along specific lines, you build those neural pathways in the brain. It becomes that subconscious thing. It becomes that habitual thing. And once it becomes habitual, that's how you know it's really starting to become who you are, because you don't have to make a conscious effort to think about it anymore. It's something that you do automatically, because kind of like this poem was saying, okay, where is it at? Know that the wheel is of your own making. Destiny. We're in control. We are in control. Many systems exist already, yet are insufficient for the changing cultures of today. Sigmund Freud's division of the psyche into ID, ego, and superego is a prime example of a simple system for studying human behavior, which formed the groundwork for psychotherapy in the early part of the 20th century. Yet this model is now sorely inadequate, as it says little about the body and even less about transcendent states of awareness. Within the human potential movement, the need for new systems is quite evident. Clinics are opening to counsel people in psychic experiences, as larger numbers are experiencing spontaneous. So, do you guys remember that affirmation reminder app that I was telling you about? It's created by your creators. It's free to download. And it's a affirmation reminder that you set in your own affirmations, and automatic affirmations come up to you throughout the entire day. And one just came up right now, and I kind of want to read it to you guys. So it says, affirmation reminder, and this was something I had put in a little over a year ago, and it says, straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. And that is a quote by Jesus the Messiah. Okay, let's continue. In psychic experiences, as larger numbers are experiencing spontaneous awakenings of unusual spiritual energies, we are discovering ourselves confronted each day by new sets of problems. Biofeedback, Kirlian photography, acupuncture, homeopathy, Ayurvedic medicine, AYURVEDIC medicine, herbology, and myriads of New Age spiritual, verbal, and physical therapies are becoming more widely practiced each and every year. We now have so many options in healing, consciousness raising, religion, and lifestyles that the information and choices are overwhelming, which is truer and true, because 3-4 years ago, when I personally started doing all of this for myself, I didn't understand or exactly know what to make of all of this information. Like I had said before, yes, we're here learning all of this, and we're learning this information, which is great, because we're going to take this and go on and live life while, living with this type of information. But it's only when we go out there and live with it, life experience itself is the real teacher, and as we move on through life and experience life, we see how all of this information is true. It really is, and especially when you go in deep meditations and you're focusing your mind on yourself, and how it's working, and when you think this thought and then you move it to this thought, how it not only changes the way you feel, but then you seem to move into a completely different state of being. It's all mind. All is mind. And it's through here that we create in the external world. Remember, nature is plastic to the ideal of the individual. Nature is plastic. Nature reflects what is happening in here, because it is mind which creates. It's something internal, not something external. One thing I want to share with you guys, I've heard from an audiobook. It's called the Kabbalion, and they would talk about how the universe is mental. The entire universe is made out of a mental substance, which we have been learning that the electron is a distribution of intelligence Very, 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 very cool. We now have so many options in healing, consciousness raising, religion, and lifestyles that the information and choices are overwhelming. The field has indeed opened up, and will certainly remain so if only we can drive some sense and order from the chaos. This is the purpose of a system. It gives us a systematic way to approach a complex task. Okay, remember what we've learned about system through the 8 pillars of prosperity, that a system is important to have because it keeps things from being confused. You know, it keeps confusion from happening in like, let's say you're building a business. For all of you business owners or who are looking to start one, it's very, very, very important that you have a system for whatever it is that you're trying to offer to your viewers, to your clients, to whatever it is that you're doing. The logical way to build a system is to base it on the observation of persistent patterns. Many of these patterns have been described by our ancestors and passed down through the ages, shrouded in myth and metaphor, like dormant seeds waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Now, when we look for new directions for a changing age, perhaps it is time to archive the ancient systems of the past, dust them off, and upgrade them so that they are useful in the modern world in which we live, and how we have been going over this whole time, like Scripture. You know, Scripture itself has to be said, you know, in a different way. It has to be explained in a different way because, you know, times now are different than they were 2,000 years ago, you know, several thousands of years ago, and the people of today are different. You know, our living conditions are different. Society itself is different. The way people talk about things is different, you know, and because of this, things have to be modernized. Things have to be put to the point of well, you know, modern, you know, a way to be understood in our days. Before we do that, we must first examine the origin and evolution of that system, paying due respect to its ancient roots. And now moving on to another section, and this one is called The History of the Chakra Systems. It is wonderful that the chakras, as archetypal components of consciousness, are finally gaining prominence in the collective mindset, with more books and references than ever before. While this popularity is making the chakras a household word, it is also spreading a lot of confusing and conflicting information. It is important to realize the chakras came from an ancient tradition, which many New Age teachers have barely explored. Here is a brief summary of the chakra system's historical development for those who have an interest in its origins. If you don't have an interest, feel free to skip to the next section. And I definitely have an interest in hearing the history of the chakra system and where they came from. And I strongly hope that you do too. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit about the history of this, shall we? So she says, the chakras are inexplicably linked with the science and practice of yoga. The word yoga means, quote, yoke, end quote, and it is a system of philosophy and practice designed to yoke the mortal self to its divine nature of pure consciousness, of pure spirit, of pure being, by transcending everything in the physical plane, you know, and living in a state from awareness, you know, knowing that we are all creator gods living from a viewpoint of mind. You know, we are not this body, but we are living in this body. You know, we are the mind behind it. We are the soul, the spirit, which inhabits this thing. And the anatomy of what our spirit is of course, the 7 chakras. The origin of yoga and earliest mention of the chakras goes back to the Vedas, meaning knowledges, a series of hymns that are the oldest written traditions in India. These writings were created from an even older oral tradition of Aryan culture, believed to be an invading Indo-European tribe that swept into India during the 2nd millennium BCE. The Aryans were said to have entered India on chariots, and that the original meaning of the word chakra as, quote, wheel, end quote, refers to the chariot wheels of the invading Aryans. So when these Aryans came in, and they came into India, okay, they came on these chariots, okay, and that's where the word chakra came from, or the word wheel, because it reversed the chariot wheels of the invading Aryans. And then in parentheses, she says the correct spelling from Sanskrit is actually okay, I was going to say Chakra, because it's C-A-K-R-A with a dot right under the C. And it says, though pronounced with the ch, as in church. Okay, so that C, I don't know if you can see it, but it has a, it has a dot right under it, and that's pronounced as a C-H, as in church, hence the English spelling chakra. The word also has a metaphor for the sun, that great wheel that rolls across the sky like a blazing chariot of a Chakravartin. There's no dot on it, so it wouldn't be a cha, right? Like Chakravartin. It's Chakravartin. The name for the Aryan chariot rulers. The wheel also denotes the eternal cycle of time called the Kalachakra. In this way, the wheel represents celestial order and balance. One further meaning is that a chakra is a tantric circle of worshippers. Remember what we learned about the tantric is both pro-life and pro-spirit. Okay, they're both for nature and for the spirit. Okay, so it is said that the Chakravartins were preceded by a glowing golden disc of light, much like the halo of Christ. Only the spinning disc was seen in front of them. Perhaps their powerful third chakras, and that is a question that she is asking. Maybe it's their powerful third chakra. The birth of a Chakravartin was said to herald a new age, and it could be this time period that marked the dawning of the third chakra era of human history. And it says, see chapter 13 on evolution. So we're going to learn a little bit more about this later on in the book. It is also said that the god Vishnu descended to earth, having in his forearms a chakra, a lotus, a flower, a club, and a conch shell. This may also have referred to a chakra in a discus-like weapon. Following the Vedas were the Upanishads, Upanishads, or wisdom teachings passed from teacher to disciple. There is some mention of the chakras as psychic centers of consciousness in the Yoga Upanishads, and that is the circa 600 BCE, and later in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is circa BCE 200. Those are in parentheses. It is from Patanjali's Sutras that we get the classic eightfold path of yoga traditions. This tradition was largely dualistic, stating that nature and spirit were separate, and advised ascetic practices and renunciation of one's instinctual nature is a way to enlightenment. It was in the non-dual tantric tradition that the chakras and kundalini came to be an integral part of yoga philosophy. The tantric teachings were a syncretic weaving of many spiritual traditions of India, which came to popularity during the 6th and 7th century A.D., in reaction to the dualistic philosophy which preceded it. This tradition advised being in a world rather than separate from it. Tantra is commonly viewed as in the West as primarily a sexual tradition, as Tantrism does put sexuality in a sacred context and regards the body as a sacred temple for the consciousness within. Yet, this is actually only a small part of a broad philosophy, which combines many practices of Hatha and Kundalini Yoga, worship of deities, especially of a Hindu god, goddesses, and focuses on integrating universal forces. The word Tantra, or Tantra, literally means, quote, loom, end quote, and denotes a weaving of disparate threads into a tapestry of wholeness. Thus, the chakra system, coming out of the tantric tradition, weaves the polarities of spirit and matter, mind and body, masculine and feminine, heaven and earth, into a single philosophy of many philosophical strands, reaching even back to the oral tradition that preceded the Vedas. And one thing I want to talk about, even her, okay, even as it's saying the wheels of life, mind, body, and spirit, she's still only using it as mind and body, spirit and matter. So even in here, yes, there's only two. There can be no third way. When it comes to the point where they're saying there's three of them, it's like they're using mind to determine what the intellectual side of man is. When it's mind, body, spirit. But when it comes to mind and body, spirit and matter, it's just one specific thing, because we've learned that we only have one mind with two separate functions, and these two separate functions are what's, as Neville Goddard would put it, or put there, which seems to be for the sake of creation. And we'll learn, Neville Goddard's one of the books I really, authors, his books I really would love to read to you guys. We'll get there, well, eventually, right? But slowly but surely, we just need to keep doing what's in front of us. We just need to keep doing what's in front of us. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it with this video right here. We still have many pages to go with these chapters, and this book is probably gonna take just as long, maybe even longer to read as the You took, because the words are twice, not even nearly as long as or as big as the You was. So with that being said, let's go ahead and end it right here. It's 9:54. Oh man, these videos are probably already between 20 to 30 minutes long, maybe a little bit longer. So that being said, you guys, I'll see you in a little bit.